Terry Whalen for 75 years. Terry's mother, my sister Eileen, came to live with my mother and father when I was 14 years old. Terry's father had enlisted in the Navy and was serving with the Seabees in the Aleutian Islands, so he was not at home when Terry was born. Terry grew to be a toddler, and he and my father, Bud, which we all called him that, and so did Terry, became best friends. Terry called Mother Fanny, and he introduced the title Aunt Rudy, because he couldn't say Aunt Ruth Ann. Daddy taught Terry how to shake hands. When you meet someone, you shake their hand so they'll know you were happy to meet them. And the final thing that he did was teach Terry how to whistle. Terry was whistling when he was 2 years old, and Terry was the cutest little blonde-haired boy, little blonde curls. I'm not partial, you all know that. But I did have to go to college, and everybody laughed about the fact when I left, are you gonna put Terry in your suitcase and take him with you? Well, I wanted to. So actually, I had 75 years with Terry Whalen, and always pleasant, friendly, smiling. He always listened if anybody wanted to talk to him, regardless of their age, young or old. And I know very well Terry Whalen's doing the same thing in heaven, and they're so lucky to have him up there.
Hi, I'm Jim Piccolo. We all know the perfect person, who that was. But secondly, probably Terry Whalen, who I grew up with since we were about 5 years old. Terry and us always used to play touch football in the street, and that was fine till Terry was the quarterback, and he hurt you throwing you the ball. Father Reese, you Centralites know, didn't start 15-2. Mrs. Whalen did. Terry would be heading to the store, and he'd come through the alley when we were playing basketball. Let me have one shot, Vic. And he'd miss it, and, oh, give me another one as he walked. Well, he'd end up getting home too late, be grounded. So he would get out, he'd come up. Oh, Terry, we need just a quick game. We need someone to make even sides. Terry'd be in 15-2 again. He used to call me Sprinkle, and I'd call him Clarabelle, or vice versa, and that came from the Howdy Doody show. And Terry also had a nickname, Trixie, and the Geyers, who lived across the street, and we all called him that, and I think it was trick shots he tried to do playing basketball when he wasn't in 15-2. One of my fondest memories is Terry Whalen. I'm glad to have known him and his family, and what a swell, swell guy.
Hey, my cousin Terry. He was a legend for all of us. He taught us not only how to be successes in whatever endeavors we chose, but also how to go out and have a good time. He was a pathfinder. He led the way for Nancy and Peggy and Terry and I, and just made our lives complete. So here's to Terry.
"1024 Limestone Street. Probably should have been called the Fun House, because that's what we had there. Lots of fun. Didn't matter whether it was green hair on St. Patrick's Day, thank you, Aunt Rudy, naps, peanut butter and jelly sandwiches in between the practices, getting by two small problems called Nancy and Peggy, but fixing those problems by placing them on the top of the refrigerator, making Ted all kinds of money tearing up roofs, a myriad of things. One of the classics was Father Reese telling Terry and I that we were going to the prom, and we had no intention. So he called my date, I called his date, and that's how we went to the prom. Thank you, Aunt Rudy, for the coaching. And then there was always the opportunity to have fun with Uncle Ted and his business. He sent us to London, Ohio to do a job at London High School, and his truck was a little beaten up, bad steering, and Terry was driving, of course. He had a license, I didn't. But I said, Terry, let me drive. So Terry, of course, pulled over and let me drive. Well, the truck weaved left, right, and we ended up on the left side, barely in a ditch, but as soon as we stopped, the truck leaned over like it had rolled. Highway patrol, etc. I don't need to tell you who was driving the truck according to the highway patrol report. That's what Terry was all about. Can't imagine, never could imagine a better best friend. I love the fact that we were inseparable in high school. So many incredible memories. And even though he's with me in my wallet every day, I miss him. And I always love him.
I'm not real sure how old I was when Big Terry came to live with us, but I just know that he was always the greatest. Terry was just like the greatest big brother you could ever have. Even when we got older and I was having babies, Terry took me shopping to do his Christmas shopping, which he bought for a whole lot of people and never had a plan. But we had great times and shopped until we dropped. I miss him dearly. He was the greatest.
I first met Terry in the 8th grade at a St. Raphael's grade school party, but really did not get to know him until probably our sophomore year at Catholic Central. I would like to celebrate Terry's life in his quiet kindness and his wonderful Irish qualities of love of life, love of family, and strong faith beliefs and values. Terry's smiling eyes and infectious laugh always made you want to smile and laugh along with him. Terry was incredibly well liked and respected by his peers, as evidenced in being elected homeroom president and student council representative, as well as playing football and basketball for 4 years. He was elected captain of the football team by unanimous vote his senior year and was presented the Most Valuable Player Award by the Junior Chamber of Commerce. Terry was a member of the National Honor Society, and he represented Central at Buckeye Boys State, chosen for scholarship, leadership, and service. As a member of the Young Christian Students, Terry and 8 of us traveled to Coleman, Alabama for a multi-day leadership conference. Father Heinel and Father Conlon drove us down there on a hot August day, but unfortunately it didn't turn out so well. We took along a picnic lunch of fried chicken, which we put in the trunk and not in a cooler. Most of us, including Terry, ended up with food poisoning and missed the entire conference. Terry and many of our classmates spent a lot of time playing basketball at the Meyer House. One summer, my dad decided to enlarge the basketball court with the help of Terry, Tommy, and Ted Dingledine. My brother Mike told me they were mainly supervisors. Some of my best memories of Terry were time spent at Ted and Rudy's. I will be forever grateful to know and to call Terry my friend. There are millions of shamrocks on Erin's Green Isle, thousands of Irishmen wearing a smile, hundreds of Irish lakes sparkling blue, but only one wonderful Terry 'tis true, a dear friend who will be missed by all of those he touched. Thank you.
The nicest guy ever. We Whalen siblings heard that a lot growing up with Terry, and of course, a lot since he died. But we knew the real Terry growing up. The nicest guy ever. Terry was our hero and our protector. When I was little on Race Street, I one day made the mistake of being a little nosy and following Terry and the Race Street gang down to Snyder Park. Well, one of the guys spotted me under the bridge, and he decided he was going to teach me a lesson. He threw me in the lagoon. Well, Terry, my protector, got me out and got me safely home. Any other brother would have been angry with his pesky little sister following the guys, but not Terry. He was also kind and generous. A great family legend is Terry's notorious Christmas Eve shopping sprees. He would arrive home from some exotic location with many beautiful gifts, but there were many to buy for. So off he would go late on Christmas Eve, and many hours later, when the last store closed, he would return home with piles of gifts, the perfect gift for everyone. That was Terry. We love Terry, and we are going to miss him. He was our leader, our hero, the one we looked up to, our big brother. We always knew he was there for us, even when his little sister said, "Where I live?"
Hi, I'm Tom Bushman, and I've been a friend of Terry Whalen since 1961 as we met at freshman at the University of Dayton. We were both members of the football team, and we also had some classes together. We were instantly friends and spent time both in Cincinnati and Springfield meeting our families. Terry was probably the nicest, kindest person I have ever met. Always willing to help others at his own expense sometimes. One thing, a little quick story about football. We had one coach that was a little bit crazy. He lined us up at spring practice and asked us to take off our hats or helmets, put our hands behind our back, and fall forward. 3 people on the team did so. A crazy junior and 2 naive freshmen named Terry Whalen and Tom Bushman. We've been friends ever since. I'm sorry that I can't be with you tonight because of a previous commitment. But I do thank the Lord that I had Terry Whalen's friendship for all these years. He's been a blessing in my life.
During our reserve years, Terry was fortunate enough to travel for IBM and was in all parts of America. But he always managed to get to every weekend for our weekend reserve duty on time with enthusiasm and ready to go. One year, on our convoy trip going to summer camp, we stopped at a roadside park for a break. So the first thing that came out was the football. So I told Terry, go deep, and Eddie Sievert was guarding him. So Terry takes off and Eddie's guarding him, and in the meantime a guy had pulled in to the parking lot in his car. Just as I released the ball, off it goes. Terry catches it, and he and Ed promptly run into the guy's car while he's in it. During summer camp, because of his rank, Terry had separate quarters in the barracks, kind of private room. That allowed him to take care of cooler duties in addition to his military duties. So we always had pop and beer on ice and everything. But when we did our basketball, softball activities after work days, we always had refreshments. I can sum up by saying Terry's military career was as successful as everything he did in life. He approached his duties as a soldier as he did his professional career. Throughout my entire life, I've often said, when asked who's some of your favorite people, that Terry, but there's 2 of them, Terry Foley, Terry Whalen, were by far the nicest people that I've ever known. In closing, I'd just like to ask God to keep our buddy Terry well and happy, and we all miss him and we'll love him forever. Thank you.
you doing? I miss you, and I miss all the fun times we had together and with IBM and traveling and going around the world to all those countries. You know, everywhere we went, we were always having fun and enjoying the time together and seeing the Taj Mahal and England and the palace and everything. It was wonderful. And Christopher, Theodore, and my kids, and seeing everybody and Skavarad and Joom and everybody, it was wonderful, and all the happy moments we had. And I just miss you, Terry, every day. And I know you're happy. And I'm saying go Irish and go Dayton Flyers and wait for me. I'll be there one of these days, hopefully.
Unforgettable. That's what you are.
I'm Christopher. I'm Terry's oldest son, and I had a lot of fond memories of my dad growing up. First thing I was going to start with is this pennant that's up in there. And I'm sure that pennant was up in my bedroom before I was even born. I took it with me when I moved out and got married. And it was always a treat when Dad would tuck me in at night. We'd go over the pen and say, okay, who's on the pen? And it'd be Newt Rockne, Dan Devine, Frank Leahy, Eric Parsesian. And he said, and who's running the football? He said, that's Christopher running the football. It was always stories about the Gip, always stories about Newt Rockne, and obviously stories about Pete Rose. Dad always told us stories about playing hard, doing your best, not quitting, and he was always involved in our lives. Weekends were a lot of fun with him. It didn't matter if he was going to the post office or the bank or whatever. We ran errands with him, and it was a lot of fun to spend time with him doing that. As we got older, they turned into coaching days. And after games, it'd be a lot of fun. He'd take us out for a hot dog, a Gatorade, and in Theodore's case, a Slurpee. But he was always involved in our lives. He was always there for us, and it was always something we appreciated with him. We were his buds, and we were the Three Musketeers. So he always taught us all for one and one for all.
My name is Theodore Whalen, and I have the honor and privilege of being Terry Whalen's son. My dad was the most caring, loving, and selfless person I've ever met. He always put people before himself, and was always willing to bend over backwards for just about anyone. He led his life with actions, not words, and the example he set is something I truly admire. His dedication to his family, friends, work, and community were second to none. If you met him once, you were his best friend for life. A few years ago, I went on a trip to Rio, and he told me, "Oh, you gotta look up so-and-so while you're down there." So I asked him, "Who is that, Dad? Is he a good friend of yours?" He said, "Oh yeah, he's a great guy and a really good friend of mine." So I asked him when was the last time he had talked to or heard from that guy. He said probably about 40 years ago, the last time I was down in Brazil. But that was just my dad's way. You met him once and he was your best friend for life. Growing up, he always made things fun. We were always playing sports and flying by the seat of our pants. That was his way. He was never much of a planner. One summer he asked if we wanted to go away, and of course we said sure. He said, "Okay, go pack your bags." That day, we hopped in the car and began our almost 900-mile trip down to Hilton Head, South Carolina. We get down to Hilton Head, and he says, "Okay, let's find a place to stay." He didn't stop and think that this was a popular beach destination in the middle of the summer, and that maybe we should have planned ahead. It might be a little difficult to find a place. But he was always the eternal optimist without a care in the world. Everything would always work itself out. That was just his way. And it did. He found us a nice apartment that week to rent, and we had a great week in Hilton Head. Growing up, my dad was my hero, but he was also my teacher, my coach, my friend, and my number one fan. He had a way of making you feel like you were the most important person in the world. Except I'm pretty sure he made everybody feel that way. I was and always will be proud to be his son. We love and miss him every day.
Unforgettable.
Barat Jr. and
John Constantino Jr.
We're here to talk about Terry Whalen, who was one of our best friends when we started to do stuff here down in the Westerners. He was one of the greatest guys that we could ever have for a GM.
What I always remember about Terry, he said, he always told us to be a good host. And that he's not with us, but in spirit he is. And we're good hosts every night because of him.
There was things that we did on the field and off the field together that I'll cherish for the rest of my life. I mean, when I was in the hospital for many years ago after I had going for surgery, Terry would come up every day just to see me.
Terry used to sit in a place we used to tease him about it. We used to call it the perch. And we loved it because if we needed him, we knew where he was every night. Right there smiling and enjoying the game. And
one thing he always said to us is just take care of the other team prior to before they got here. And we would always have that ready.
And we love it. We gladly love doing it for him. And like I was saying, he had that infectious smile and that chuckle that I will never forget.
Someone so unforgettable thinks that I am unforgettable too.